welcome back to my channel. If you've never been here before, my name is Allie. I am a flight attendant for a major airline in the United States. I tend to vlog every now and then about my life as a flight attendant, and as well as making sit-down videos where I discuss certain flight attendant topics. So today I decided to sit down and talk to you about commuting. I am currently in Chicago. I'm in a layover. I'm actually vlogging on this trip, so hopefully you guys will get to see the vlog pretty soon. And I just decided to sit down. So I wanted to talk to you about commuting. I was a commuting flight attendant when I first started this job. I was living in Orange County, California. I was a personal banker at a bank, at a major bank, and I decided to leave that job to become a flight attendant. At the time, my husband had just completed his contract with the Marine Corps, and we decided that we were ready to move out of California. When I was looking to become a flight attendant, we knew that moving out of California was a possibility, so we were open to that. And at the time, we were willing to go wherever the airline sent me, whether it was New York, Chicago, whatever. I was more than willing to go anywhere other than California at the time. I applied for every single airline that I could think of that was hiring at the time. So out of the top 3 airlines that I wanted, 2 of them choose your base for you. The third one, which is the one that I'm in right now, that I am with right now, you get to choose your base. So I've talked about this before. I can't really mention which airline I work for, just because for security reasons, they don't really like us talking about the airline that we work for. I'm pretty sure a lot of you already know which airline I work for. I just can't come out and say it. The airline that I'm with right now, it let me choose my base. So we have 6 bases, and out of all 6 bases, Dallas-Fort Worth was the one that my husband and I thought was better for us, for our situation. Because I was living in California and my base was in Dallas, I knew I was going to have to commute. So when you commute, you pretty much live outside of your base. So living in Orange County, I had 3 airports that were an option, that were the closest to me. I had LAX, John Wayne, and San Diego Airport. The airport that I had to fly out of was John Wayne Airport, which was about 20 minutes of where I used to live. And I would take a major airline to commute from Orange County to Dallas. So when you commute, when I would commute, I would pretty much try to fly out the day before my trip started or before my reserve period started, just so that I can play it safe and make sure that I got on a flight. Now, commuting is pretty much a job on its own because you plan your life around your commute. So if you are working a trip on Wednesday, it's always smart to travel the day before on on Tuesday. And the reason being is because you do fly on standby. You're not guaranteed a seat. So most airlines have contracts with other airlines to allow their crew members to commute on their airline, on their flights. So for example, I would never commute on my airline because my airline doesn't fly out of John Wayne. They would fly out of LAX or San Diego, but because LAX was about an hour and 15 minutes away where I lived, John Wayne was the best one. So I was at the bottom of the priority list. So if I had a flight attendant from that airline commuting, they had more priority. If they had revenue passengers, they were obviously the priority. So they would give me the last seat if it was available, if nobody else was waiting before me. So that's why it's very important to try to fly out the day before, and then also try to fly out on the earliest flight possible too. So one time I actually got stuck at the airport. I waited there for 8 hours. I cut it very, very close. Very, very, very close. And I learned my lesson after that. So what happened was, I normally would take the flight, like the 7 a.m. flight from John Wayne over to Dallas, just because I wanted to play it safe. Most of the time people miss their flights in the morning, like early flights. So you have a higher chance of getting on a flight if you're flying standby, if you try to travel in the morning. But that day, for whatever reason, I really wanted to stay home and spend some extra time with my husband and son. So instead of taking that early flight, I ended up taking like the, I don't know, 11:30 or 12:30, something like that. I tried to get on that flight. And so when I got to the airport, I guess a flight before that had been delayed by I don't even know how many hours. So all the passengers from that flight were going to try to get on my flight now. And I was number 27 on the standby list. So there was 26 people before me trying to get on that flight. So every flight after that, I was told, nope, sorry, there's no room. Sorry, you can't make it on. And so there were 2 more flights left that day. So I had to make up my mind. Do I go to LAX and try to catch my airline and go from LA to Dallas? Or do I try another airline here on this airport? So I ran to another airline. Luckily, I mean, I feel bad, but luckily, one of the passengers missed their flight. So I was able to get their seat. There was 1 seat left and I was able to get that seat. So I got on, but I had to connect. So it wasn't even a direct flight over to Dallas. So I had to go from Orange County to Vegas and then from Vegas go to Dallas. So once I got to Vegas, I still had to try to get on the flight and see if there were any seats available. Again, someone missed their flight and I was able to get on the flight and get to Dallas. Now, I was going to start my reserve period at midnight. So at 12:01, that's when my reserve period started. And I got to base at 12:15 a.m. So almost 15 minutes past my reserve time. So if crew scheduling would have called me between then, I would have been screwed, because when you are on reserve, if you don't answer your phone, it is a big no-no. You are, in my company, it is grounds for termination if you are on probation, or a write-up if you're not on probation. So it is very serious for you to not answer your phone when you are on reserve. So I cut it very close, and that happened to me one more time. And mind you, another thing is that airline did not even fly to DFW, which is where I'm based out of. They flew in to another airport, which is about 40 minutes away from the Dallas-Fort Worth airport, which is Dallas Love Field. So I had to figure out a way at midnight to get to my airport, to my home base, and make sure that I was going to work and stuff like that. So yes, commuting can be very stressful. That is an example of a stressful commuting day. So what do you do if, let's say, your flight or whatever trip that you're on gets back really late and there are no more flights going home that same day? Or what do you do if you fly out the day before your trip starts? Where do you sleep? Where do you stay? So there are these things called crash pads, which are pretty much a place where you can crash while you're sitting on call, or you are waiting to go out on your next trip the next day, or whatever it may be. So crash pads are pretty much a place where you may share it with other flight attendants, or with like a bunch of flight attendants, or you may share it with maybe 2-3 flight attendants. I looked into a crash pad before when I first moved to Dallas, or when I was first based in Dallas, and I met this beautiful, amazing lady who let me stay at her house until I moved to Dallas, and that lady just saved my life. She saved my life because at the time I didn't have any flight benefits. At my airline, your flight benefits don't kick in until you have been employed for 90 days. So 90 days after your hire date is when you get your flight benefits. So it was very hard because I couldn't see my family. So she was so sweet. She gave me buddy passes so I can go see my family. And, I hadn't seen them for 2 months. So I love the lady, okay? So she gave me a place to stay. So I didn't really get to experience the crash pad experience. My friend here on YouTube is Stella. She has a channel, Fly with Stella. I'll go ahead and link it either up here or down in the description box. She actually made a video on crash pads. She is a flight attendant for a major airline. She actually commutes from Germany to New York, I believe. So talk about a long commute. And she obviously has to stay in a crash pad in order to do a commute that large. So she has a series on how to become a flight attendant, and she talked about crash pads. I can't really tell you much about crash pads because, like I said, I didn't get to experience that crash pad experience. So, but she does. So if you have any questions about crash pads, that's your girl. That's who you can go talk to. So if you're someone that's looking to become a flight attendant, I would definitely take some things into consideration if you're planning to commute. I wouldn't really recommend you doing this if you have small children. I did it because I had a husband that was willing to support me, as well as my parents that lived in California. So it was a little bit easier for me. It was hard because I had to pretty much give up an extra day off to be with my family so that I can leave. And that was hard. I would pretty much give up an entire day off, especially since I would have to leave so early the day before. You miss out on things, but for me it was only temporarily, so that is why I was willing to do it. You also have to keep in mind the off-peak and the high-peak seasons. So if you're someone that commutes, keep in mind that come November, come December, come spring break, come summertime, summer vacation, flights are full. So the chances of you getting on flights are a little harder than they would be on, you know, for example, like September, October, when not a lot of people are traveling, or January and February when people aren't traveling as well. So you have to keep in mind that as well. Some airlines don't have a commuter clause. A commuter clause is pretty much something that protects you if you are a commuter, if you miss your flight. My airline didn't have a commuter clause at the time. So if I didn't make a flight, I was pretty much gonna have to call out, and when you call out, you're not able to use your flight benefits. So it's a very tricky situation. There really is no way around it, and if there is a way around it, I never really looked into it, and I don't know, it's a little risky. So you have to keep that in mind. You have to consider and try to find out if the airline that you are applying for has a commuter clause. My airline now has a commuter clause. I'm not too familiar with it. I know you can only use your commuter clause a few times a year. I don't know how the other airlines work. Definitely look into that. Try to talk to flight attendants that work for the airline that you are interested in and see what they tell you about the commuter clause. You also have to find out if there are flights from wherever you're from. So let's say you live in a small town and the base is, I don't know, Los Angeles or Chicago or I don't know, Detroit, whatever it is, New York, something like that. So a big city like that. Are you able to find flights that fly out of your small town over to a big city? Are there flights that go out from there to and from? So, and if there are flights, is it one flight a day, 2 flights a day? I don't know. So try to find out that as well and see if it's going to work for you. If not, maybe moving would be a good option for you. So definitely keep those things in mind, because that might be a deal breaker for you if whether you become a flight attendant or not. So that is pretty much all I can think of as far as commuting goes. I can't really think of anything else. If you guys have any other questions about commuting, or if you are a flight attendant that commutes and you feel like I missed something, please let me know in the comments down below, and we can all discuss this subject a little bit more. I filmed this video about a month and a half ago, but the content wasn't very good, and I want to make sure that whenever I post something, it's not just, you know, anything just to get some content out there. I know that a lot of you come to my channel as well as other flight attendant channels because you want to find out about the life of flight attendants, and you're probably thinking of becoming a flight attendant, so you want to know if this job is for you. So I do want to make sure that anything that I say on camera and anything that I put up on YouTube is something that you will benefit from. When I was looking to become a flight attendant, I looked up YouTube videos, but I couldn't really find a lot of things. I feel like in the last year or two maybe, flight attendant vlogging has become a little bit more common, which I'm very happy about. It's so cool to see all these different flight attendants from all over the country, all over the world, vlogging about their life as flight attendants. Even for me as a flight attendant, when I see a flight attendant from, let's say, another US carrier, it's like, oh wow, your life is so cool, you know. And even though we do the same thing, it's just, I don't know, it's nice. And when you see someone from Europe or Asia or something like that, I think it's pretty cool to follow their journey as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I really do hope I answered some of your questions. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Don't forget to follow me on social media. I am more active on Instagram than any other of my social media sites. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.